I got to boot camp and I just got after it. It was the first time in my life where I laid everything on the table, did the best I could, and I was able to graduate, honor graduate. And so having this experience that took time, it took effort, it took hard work and dedication, and to come out on the other side and succeed in a goal that was so far beyond anything that was realistic, it flipped a switch, like, okay, maybe I can do something, you know?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you are hearing this, you have once again tuned the Consequence of Habit podcast. Like always, I want to give a huge shout out to the supporters of us as a 501c3 nonprofit and as a podcast. First one, you know who I'm going to talk about. My friends at Athletic Brewing. Said it before, man, if you don't like hangovers, you don't like DUIs, you don't like losing your cool because you've had a couple too many, whether you just don't drink at all like me, or maybe you just are somebody that can't drink today for whatever reason. I don't know what you're doing. It's not my business. Then check out athleticbrewing.com. Use the promo code capital COH20. Get 20% off your first order. Man, I tell you, when we were looking at doing the nonprofit side and actually holding events, I reached out to them and they were the first one to step up. You know, they have financially supported us in a way that I couldn't dream of. So thank you to everyone there at Athletic Brewing Company. Support them. Drink amazing beer. It's a win-win. The second one is the Patriot Fund. This is a local, to me, I'm in Delaware. They're in New Jersey, a local veteran-specific nonprofit. Just by chance, I got introduced to these guys, told them what I was doing, and in a very short period of time, they got back to me and they wanted to help us. They wanted to support what we're doing and invest in the veteran community. So thank you to both those organizations. A lot of the things we're doing would not be happening without them. If you are an individual, a corporation, another foundation, just somebody that's looking to, maybe you just need a tax write-off. Well, we got you covered. Like I said, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We 100% of the donations goes directly into our programs. We cover all the admin stuff. That is myself, the board. So anything you do donate will go directly to the programs that we are that we're running. All right, enough housekeeping. This week, man, I am joined by a legit go-getter, Army Special Forces, Jason Howell. I came across Jason's story. Actually, I was introduced by Nick Lavery, another former Consequence of Habit guest, another Green Beret doing amazing things. And he said, hey, you should check this guy out. Jason is climbing Everest this spring, and he's not doing it just for personal reasons. As cool as anyone climbing Everest is by itself, like I said, Jason's an active duty Green Beret, and he's found that a lot of the motivation behind this is to bring awareness to PTSD, TBIs, any of the things that our veterans are dealing with because of 20 years of war. I'm not telling anybody anything new. These communities have struggled for a lot of expected reasons. You put anybody in those types of environments for those periods of time, well, you better know that there's going to be some ramifications that come from that. So that's what Jason's doing. He could really use your support. Check him out, his profile at Green Beret Racing. And I want to give big props to Green Beret Racing as an organization. They understand that these men for this organization that are serving, that have given years of their life, blood, sweat, and tears to become a Green Beret, and then everything that goes along with being on the teams. And they realize that at some point they're going to step away from this. And there's a huge void. There's this vacuum of now what? What do these people do that have had so much identity wrapped up in what they're doing, and now it's gone? Well, Green Beret Racing is helping support these men to make them understand, hey, you're more than just a Green Beret. You're more than what's just happening in the team rooms. Like, let's find purpose. Let's find a passion outside of this, and we're going to help support you. We're going to help you achieve those goals, whatever it is that you're doing. So please check out Green Beret Racing. It's another nonprofit. So if you want to support them, they would really appreciate it. I know Jason would as well. So with that said, please welcome to the podcast, Jason Howell. Everybody, today we are joined by Jason Howell, Green Beret Racing. He's got, dude, I'm digging that sweatshirt, first of all. Listeners can't see it. He's got a sweet Green Beret Racing sweatshirt on. Jason, I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for having me on the show, and looking forward to a good conversation.
Yeah, likewise. So I came across your story. Nick Lavery, he had posted something about what you're doing, right? Like some of this project that we're going to cover here in a little bit. So I started looking into kind of what your project is, the motivation behind it. And I reached out to you, and you were, first of all, I've said this before, but some people, you reach out and you hear nothing. And it's always, it's always very cool when somebody is super responsive, got back to me right away, and we set this bad boy up. Now, you said in our initial message, I'll do it, but I suck at podcasts.
Yeah, man. I'll be totally honest. I'm pretty terrible, especially with the social media thing, kind of in general. It's just, it's not in my nature, and a lot of guys that we work with, it's not in our nature at all, right? To be out on social media and telling people what you're doing, and then, let alone here having a podcast that the entire world can listen to. And, and a lot of these conversations, you can get pretty deep and
Sure.
get vulnerable and talk about real issues. So it's definitely so far beyond my comfort zone, but, looking at the weight of this entire project, I am trying to lead by example here, and like get dudes put themselves out there and, kind of start pushing for different things. And to do that, I have to do the right thing myself, and, go outside of my comfort zone and try to do the right thing.
When you say, being vulnerable and these groups, let everybody know, first of all, where you are and what your daytime, what your normal job is right now.
Okay. So right now I'm based in Colorado, and I'm a mountaineering instructor at the Special Operations Mountain Warfare Training Center here out of Fort Carson. So if you look back into history, go back to World War II, you have the 10th Mountain Division. So at the onset of World War II, they recruited all the top athletes, top mountaineers in the world, in rock climbing, downhill skiing, winter operations, to compile this very elite force to combat, what we were dealing with in Europe. Well, what we do here at Fort Carson is very much the modern day version of that. So I am an active duty Green Beret, Special Forces. So our schoolhouse is solely focused on all of special operations, DOD-wide.
Sure.
So any soft element can come through our schoolhouse, and we are the premier, the top entity for all of mountaineering within DOD.
Now, did you grow up doing this stuff? I mean, was mountaineering, this outdoor lifestyle, just something that you've been ingrained with since you were a kid, or?
Technical mountaineering, no. I grew up in southwestern Colorado, so I've definitely been in the mountains all of my life, hunting, fishing, camping, backpacking, doing all of that. I'm fortunate enough, our mountain property is at 8,500 feet. So I grew up in the winter playing in the snow and just kind of immersing myself in these elements, like I said, throughout my life. And I've always had a very strong drive and passion for being in the mountains. I've told my wife this before, coming home from a trip or, being over in the desert for an extended period of time, getting back in the mountains, that's my happy place, man.
Yeah. Now, what, a lot of people going to the military, was being a Green Beret like something as a kid, like, hey man, if I'm going to go in, I'm going all the way. Like you knew that from a pretty young age, or?
No. So I initially joined the military in 2003, and I enlisted in the Marine Corps. Growing up where I did, very small rural town here in Colorado, I never really had a strong like military influence.
Sure.
But the biggest thing was, I'd always heard, the Marines are the hardest.
Yeah.
Their boot camp is the hardest. It's the most challenging and, the most disciplined and all of this. And there's something even, at a young age, for whatever reason, that kind of latched onto me. It was very intriguing. And then I was in high school. I got a pamphlet in the mail, a Marine Corps recruiting pamphlet, and it just talked about being in the woods and shooting machine guns. I'm like, oh, dude, this lines up. This is it, So I did that. I was in the Marine Corps from 2003, 2009. Got out for about a year and a half. Went to school, did some other things, and then started civilian contracting. And it wasn't until I was contracting, I was fortunate enough, got onto a team that was all prior soft dudes.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends now, he was a former Green Beret. So we started talking, and, it was kind of one of those points in your life, and I think we all have them. I was mid-20s, and I told him, I was just like, damn, like a part of me wishes I would have tried that. I always wondered, could I have made it, to that level? And he's like, hey man, there's this program, it's the X-ray program. So it allows civilians to enlist, come in off the street, and they get an opportunity to go straight to Special Forces assessment and selection. So we're in Baghdad. I'd been contracting for about a year and a half at that point. And I hit up a recruiter. I was like, hey man, this is me. This is my story. Kind of want to give this thing a shot. Can we do it? And so we did.
And that's history.
Yeah.
That's so. What year is that? Is that 2010 then, or?
Yep. I contracted 2009, 2010. So I finished my last contract in December 2010.
So I want to get into some of the stuff that you're doing now, and what the motivation behind it, and what you're trying to bring awareness to. The first thing I saw was there's this black and white picture of you, and it said something about climbing Everest, right? And I was like, oh, here we go. Let's look into this, and that in itself is always interesting. Like I'm always fascinated by people that take on these massive challenges, but even more interesting to me is the motivation behind it, and really what you're trying to bring to the forefront. So let's start in the beginning. Where did this idea come from? And then how is this that kind of evolved, and was that the purpose from the very beginning, or did that kind of change along the way?
Yeah. So, and actually I misspoke. I contracted 2010, 2011. Sorry. And this started in 2011. So one of the benefits with contracting, we worked 3 months on, 1 month off. Well, we had all of our international flights paid for. So I was single. My buddy and I, we took that opportunity to start traveling the world, and honestly going to a lot of places, doing things that growing up the way I did, I never imagined I'd be able to. Well, one of those trips, we decided to go to Tanzania, and we did a safari, and we climbed Kilimanjaro. So kind of, as I mentioned before, I've known for a long time that the mountains are my, say, happy place. During that climb, getting up high elevation back into the mountains, and then topping out on Kili just under 20 grand, it just lit a fire in me. It's like, man, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is kind of what I'm supposed to do. And so at that point, I really started looking into the 7 summits, and, looking at different mountains to climb and reading books. And it kind of started this process, training process, but really mental process where I'm reading everything I can get my hands on. Big mountains, expeditions, Himalayan, this kind of thing. And then, so come back, now I come into the Army, 2018 after deployment, got home, and I took my wife, Michelle. We went to Nepal, and we actually trekked to Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
So Everest Base Camp sits at about 17,500, and getting into Nepal, and then especially once you start working your way up through the Khumbu, I mean, man, like there's no other way to put it. It changed my life.
Wow.
The culture, the people are incredible. The mountains, everything there is so big. The relief is humongous. So here in Colorado, we have 58 14ers, right? Mountains over 14,000 feet. Well, you can stand at the base of any given 14er and you're looking, you know, 3 to 4,000, maybe vertical gain to the top of the mountain. Well, in the Khumbu Valley, you can be at 11,500 feet, look down to the valley floor at 6,000 feet, and then you can see the top of Everest at over 29,000 feet. So everything is massive. And I told Michelle during the trek, I absolutely one day have to find a way to come back here and climb. So that was 2018. Now, granted, right, I'm an active duty military. I'm still working. I have life and job and priorities. But after that trip, it worked out that I was able to come to our course. And then I ended up getting a job offer to come out here as an instructor. And really my path to Everest has kind of been lining up since 2018 to do this. And, obviously it started for very, very personal reasons. It still is. It's something that,
Sure.
that I'm very driven and I'm very passionate about trying to pursue. And really it's a self-test. Can I endure? Do I have what it takes to successfully climb this mountain and in the style that I'm wanting to attempt without the use of supplemental oxygen?
It started off as something personal, which I think everything has to, right? Like there has to be that initial thing. From everything I've seen, it's become something bigger than that, right? That's part of it. It needs to be from the beginning, but that has evolved over time, and you found it almost a deeper meaning behind it. So it sounds like I might have cut you off. You're getting ready to head in that direction, but go ahead and fill us in on that.
Yeah. So, Green Beret Racing. Green Beret Racing, it reached out to me after I finished the Moab 240-mile endurance run this past October. Sat down. I've spoken with Nick, some other buddies of mine that are with GBR, and learning about the organization and what they're doing. The organization's mission statement is combating PTSD through competition. Really what it is it is giving, active or veteran Green Berets the opportunity and the means to go after and chase any desire, anything that they're passionate about. If they have a goal, if they have something that they've kind of dreamed up, like, man, I wonder if I could do this. One day I would like to do that. It's like, hey man, there's no day like today. Like get after it and let's do it. So, when they brought me on, one of my first conversations with Nick's the executive director. He's like, okay, dude, what's your race calendar look like for 2022? I want to get you lined up. I want to make sure we're taking care of you and start supporting you with this stuff. So I told him races, ultra marathons I have on the calendar. And then I think I waited, a day or two. I was like, hey man, I kind of have this big project. Like I'm hesitant to even tell you, but I'm on an expedition to go climb Everest in the spring. And he's just like, wait, what?
He's like, why are you even talking about these races right now?
Yeah. And so to kind of bring it around, bring it full circle to now, I could not have planned the timing to meet with Nick and with GBR to be any perfect than the way it happened, and to be able to be a part of this organization and to support this mission set and, guys to the left and right of us on top of, the way it is benefiting me personally with the things I'm going through in my head and in my experiences. It just like to bring everything full circle. And it's just like, whoa, like it kind of took me a little bit to really step back and let it settle in. But it's like, all right, we're on another level now. This is pretty heavy. And it just puts so much more motivation and push behind this entire endeavor, because anytime, if we go out and do something for ourselves, it's like, okay, cool, check that block, I got it done. But now if you can involve other people, if you can involve teammates, community, family, friends, and you can share a very incredible and powerful experience with them, I mean, that's a life story. That's where change and effects happen, right?
It's huge. It's huge. And I think it's a, like what we're trying to do is build a community through connection and purpose. And it has to be, part of, it's almost a responsibility to bring as many people, if you're heading in a positive direction, with you, right? I think it does so much more for you personally. It's actually a selfish thing. But at the same time, you're helping, you're empowering your teammates, and it's part of. I've said it on here a bunch, man. People are sick of hearing it, but we talk about serving our community, and it seems strange that doing something yourself that's what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you're going to bring awareness to this. You're going to bring awareness to PTSD. The struggles that our veterans have gone through over 20 plus years of war, by fulfilling your dream. I mean, what a perfect way to do it. It's like, it's outstanding. So I want to get into this. This whole thing is called Consequence of Habit. And for a lot of people that listen to this, I mean, we have a lot of veterans, but we have a lot of people that aren't, and they hear Green Beret, they hear SOF or special forces or any of these terms. And it almost seems like, we grew up watching these movies and they don't understand the habits that go into even becoming one of these things, to reaching this level. Like, what does your normal day look like now as an active duty Green Beret? Obviously you're an instructor, but walk me through your day. Like what's today look like for you?
So obviously, today's Saturday, so the weekend. But I'm always going, man. My mind is always on. So I try to be good, go to bed, 8, 9 o'clock at night. I'm old anyway, so I need my sleep. But, like this morning, I woke up just before 4 o'clock. My typical day starts between 3 and 4 in the morning. And I don't set my alarm for that time. It's just my mind is on. I'm focused. I have stuff I've got to get done. And, whether that's training, work, or just mind running, there's stuff to do. So today I woke up just before 4. I did a morning treadmill session. So I did a couple hours there. Obviously, training one, for my job and life, but this thing I'm attempting. And then, for the rest of the day, I'll have another workout to do. And then we actually start our winter mountain operator course tomorrow. So I'm going to be gone for the next 3 weeks. So getting all my gear laid out, packed out, all of my preparations, getting ready to go into the course. I would say in general, like say a work day, right? Again, early morning wake up, my personal training session, whatever that may be, something today, like I said, was on the treadmill, but most of the times it's outside, either for a trail run or I'll do a climb, I'll do a ski touring, mountaineering objective, something to get me outside. And then I'm either teaching, during the summer, we're teaching guys how to do traditional climbing on rock, placing gear for protection, rock climbing. Right now we'll be doing ski mountaineering. So for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to be, taking 18 to 20 guys who maybe some guys have skied before, but we have a lot of students that have never skied before. Going to be teaching them how to ski on a resort. And then we're immediately going to transition into backcountry and touring and ski mountaineering objectives. That fills up my day, and then the evening comes around, another workout training session, and kind of rinse and repeat.
Yeah, Jason, a lot of people are going to hear that and just think, holy shit, like that seems, I mean, your morning stuff, when you mentioned I had a treadmill workout and I was on there for a couple hours, that alone, a lot of people are going to think that's extreme. Now, have you been that way when you say my mind's always going, right? I don't set my alarm again. Have you always been like that? Is this kind of this natural thing, or is that kind of progressed as you're along with your career?
You know, I always have, and it's because of my dad, right? So my dad, he can outwork me any day of the week. The dude's 65 years old and he doesn't stop. He's still hammering, you know? And so growing up with him as my example, my mentor, like if I am sitting around or if I'm not doing something to be productive, I inherently feel lazy and I feel like, I'm losing time. Like, what am I doing right now? Nothing. I'm not being productive. So I think it definitely started at a very early age for me. And it really kind of got kicked into a high gear when I started training for boot camp before I went into the Marine Corps. I grew up, I wasn't an athletic kid at all. I mean, I played sports, but I was average at best. I was never super physically fit or anything like that. And I think my biggest hindrance, especially through my adolescent years, was I had zero self-confidence, zero. I was afraid to try or go anything because pursue anything for the fear of failure, or I would attempt something I wasn't very good at it. Like, I suck. I used to hate running. I was terrible at running. I'd start breathing hard. I'd build up lactic acid. Like, oh, I guess I'm just a terrible runner, so I'm not going to do it. But before the Marine Corps, I was in the delayed entry program. So I had about 3 months during the winter to just train and prepare myself for boot camp. And I did. Like I said, our house is at 8,500 feet where I grew up, and it's in the mountains on a dirt mountain road, an hour away from any town. We're in the middle of nowhere. Wow. It's incredible. So I spent 3 months during the winter running through the snow, training, just doing everything I could to, mentally make myself as, hard or as tough as I could, but to bring myself into boot camp as absolutely fit as I could. And boot camp was a life-changing experience for me in so many different ways, right? Like I said, going into it, very low self-confidence, hadn't done anything productive with my life. I wasn't successful at anything. I actually told my dad this story a couple of days ago. On the flight to boot camp, there was a Marine that had just graduated, and he was going back to Camp Pendleton for a School of Infantry training after boot camp. Anyway, so he started telling us about boot camp stories, and I heard him mention something about the guide, and the guide is in charge of the platoon. They have the most responsibility, and they are the honor graduate at the end of it. And I knew nothing about boot camp. I didn't know what the hell I was getting myself into, but I heard that and something triggered me. I heard that and it's like, that's what I want to fucking be. And I got to boot camp and I just got after it. It was the first time in my life where I laid everything on the table, did the best I could, and I was able to graduate, honor graduate. And so having this experience that took time, it took effort, it took hard work and dedication, and to come out on the other side and succeed in a goal that was so far beyond anything that was realistic, it flipped a switch. Like, okay, maybe I can do something,
Isn't that wild, man? Like, you have these beliefs of what you're capable of, and then you have an event in your life, a decision you make. Like, you hear something, and that's just this one decision, and you have no idea the ramifications of that decision. I mean, think about if that one thing that switch hadn't been flipped in your brain. I mean, think about it, like where you would be right now. It's unbelievable, and it's a story I think people need to hear these types of things, because there's a lot of people that doesn't happen at 18. It doesn't happen at 25. At some point in their life, they just resign to the fact that this is just the way things are. But you put yourself in a position and with an organization that certainly knows how to break people down and then rebuild them. So now you get into the special forces, and I imagine that even brings it to a whole nother level. Now you're surrounded by people that are, just getting after it on a regular basis. And that's got to only amplify that kind of path that you're on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And naturally it starts with preparing for selection, right? So our selection process is 3 weeks long, and it is, it's a grinder, and it's meant to break you down physically, mentally, test you, through any, type of means that you could kind of imagine and come up with. And you end up, you meet so many like-minded individuals. And that's what's great about this community, right? You initially go into something for yourself, for a personal goal. But once you get there and you start engaging and talking with everybody and hearing other stories, it's like, oh shit, dude, you're in the same boat I am. You had the same commitment. You had the same dedication that gets you here, similar backgrounds, and it begins feeding this environment of just competition and drive and pushing each other, as far and as hard as you can, and not to, try to break somebody down, but to push them with you, to push them forward, or, for them to pull you with them. And I'm not going to lie, like, we are a very type A, very aggressive community. So there is a part when you see somebody quit and when you see somebody break, it does fuel you a little bit, like, sure, just to give you that mental resolve. Like, yeah, I'm tougher than that guy. He's done, but I can keep going. And then you get a group of all these other guys that are that same mindset. And it's just incredible the things you can accomplish and how far you can go.
But I think it's part of that mentality that is absolutely necessary, right, within those positions. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it might be that same mentality across the military and like the first responder communities that might be one of the things that are hindering people getting the help, right, like that they may need after they've gone and done things that a lot of people can't imagine, have seen things people can't imagine. I don't know what your thought process is on that.
No, and again, and please, I'll throw out a disclaimer here, right? Like, everything I say, this is solely Jason. This is the way, Jason processes and views things. But again, so for me personally, I've been doing this, in some sort of fashion for 18 years, right? I've definitely dealing with some different stuff. And it wasn't, only until 3 months ago that I, for the very first time, voluntarily went to medical, and I went to behavioral health and TBI clinic, and I started talking to some folks, because for me, my greatest fear is letting somebody down. My greatest fear is, not Jason failing a personal event, but Jason failing one of his teammates, letting down his wife, letting down his family. Yeah. And I never, I will do everything in my power to never be viewed as that weak link, or somebody, especially in this environment or on the teams or what I do, with my guys in the mountains. I will never be viewed as, somebody that's not solid, or that you can't rely on, And so I think, with that being said, with this type A competitive driven personality, we're afraid to show vulnerability. We're afraid to show weakness. We don't want anyone to second guess, like, oh shit, Jason's talking to TBI, to behavioral health. Is he okay? Is he still going to have his edge? And the more we fucking put that in the dirt, dude, and get away from that. Like, it's stupid. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, and I can only say this now after not doing it for so long, not talking to anybody. And when I say talk to people, I'm talking about your mates too. Talking, the dudes you work with, right? Day to day, like, hey man, my head's kind of fucked up right now. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. And the more you start like opening up a little bit and putting more trust into your teammates, the easier it is, the more relaxed you become, the more you open up this line of communication. And then you see that spread amongst other dudes as well. And that's where it like really hits you like, okay, cool. Like, yep, I put myself out there a little bit, but now I see these other dudes, you know, they're communicating, they're talking. It feels like everybody's more kind of on a level ground here.
I don't even know this is a good comparison, but it's like after a performance from somebody or someone gives a speech, there has to be the first person that starts clapping, right? And then you see it, and everyone's waiting, everyone's holding it in. And I tell you what, man, I think you're right. I think the script is being flipped on what is weakness, and you know, you talk about not wanting to let people down, but the reality is, you want to be as healthy as you possibly can in every aspect of your life. Because not only, you know, we're talking about doing something for yourself, that's for you, but everyone else around you deserves it, right? Like they deserve that best version of Jason or JT or whoever, because you love them, they love you. So, and part of that is facing some of those things that are uncomfortable, especially when you know, talk to people in these communities. That fear of somebody giving in on that physical side or that mental side where they've just they've got nothing left, at least in their own mind. That's the challenge. How do we get people to understand that doesn't translate over into the expected normal response to 20 years of war? Because we're comparing two different things, right? We're comparing somebody who's just decided that they're going to give up on something to a chemical and normal reaction to seeing things and being involved in things that normally we're not designed for. We're not built for that. You know, like it's so. I applaud you, man. And you're just 3 months into it. I mean, what was that like for you doing that the first time? And you know, what did that bring to the surface as soon as you started?
But you know, it's kind of cool, I guess, because I've kind of gone through, I don't know, I've kind of gone through a transition with it, right? So I guess first to start, you know, 18 years, haven't done anything, talked to anybody, just internalize everything. And naturally I think with our job and what we do, most of us are very good at compartmentalizing.
Sure, you have to be, right?
Kind of take this, push it to the side, throw it in the back of your closet, whatever, that's done. So finally getting to the point like, okay. And really what did it for me was Michelle, you know, my wife, you know, telling me like, hey, I'm noticing difference in you. Yeah. I'm seeing changes in you. And she noticed that, for the first time, when I got home from my last deployment. Mm-hmm. So, you know, 3-4 years ago. And so things kind of progressed, were going on, and okay, fine. So I started talking to some folks and getting things checked out. And, you know, I'm going to be totally honest here, because I have to be. Like, I personally didn't get a lot out of the folks that I met with sleep therapy, behavioral health, TBI, you know, with things. I definitely sat down, you know, talked, we did some studies, whatever. I didn't have anything that's just like, oh, boom, cool.
Sure.
I feel better now, you know?
Yeah, right.
But I think what it did for me is just walking through that door and beginning to verbalize something, yes. You know, telling somebody like, hey dude, I drive home and I kind of black out and I'm at a point in the road. I don't know how I got there. Mm-hmm. Or I'm filling out a document and I can't remember my home address.
Yeah.
Right. Or, hey, I'm super hyper vigilant. I will never go to Walmart with my wife because it gives me anxiety and it stresses me the fuck out. So to be able to like start expressing some of these things and you know, just other folks and just putting it out there. It's like, okay, so what happened was, you know, after that, I kind of felt like initially it almost made me more depressed, to be honest with you.
Because it wasn't doing anything for you.
Yeah, it didn't do a lot for me. And it was almost making me a bit more depressed, I guess, because one, it brought everything to the surface. And then I found myself like my mind was wandering a lot to where I was remembering like everything, all this stuff I put out of my head for so long. It's like, you know, I'm driving to a meeting now with behavioral health. So like naturally that's kind of where my mind is focused. So now I'm remembering freaking everything. And it's just like, I feel my blood pressure rise, you know, and all this stuff. But it wasn't until, and this was just something that I had to do mentally. And I don't know, I do like a lot of self-talk and kind of whatever. And it's just like, I think I just kind of told myself like, fuck that dude. Like nothing's wrong with you. Yeah. This is normal shit.
Yes.
You've seen some things, you've done some things, like, yes, accept the fact that it's going to be with you. It's going to affect you, but you're not fucked up because of it. And don't feel guilty, you know, for having some responses, and just continue to kind of do you kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. I think it's a great point. The fact that none of this stuff, like everything you've done takes time. Like you didn't become Jason Howell, the guy who's going to climb Everest, the guy who's a Green Beret, the guy who smoked Marine boot camp overnight. And these are just small steps towards a much bigger goal. And then also, you know, just acknowledging the fact that when people start talking about this stuff, when they bring it to the surface, it's fucking uncomfortable. You know, like anything. Like I don't care. Like I talk to people dealing with addiction. You know, you first start dealing with that stuff, man. People are a mess, because we can only push shit down for so long. And then at some point, you're like, all right, well, if I'm going to lean into this and I'm going to start really looking at it, it's going to be uncomfortable. But the juice is worth the squeeze, man. Like everything that comes along with that, dude, the feeling of like gratitude, the feeling of I've achieved something, and you'll find a lot more. I believe people will find a lot more courage and pride in themselves when they start doing these things, because there's not fun, man. It's not fun, and it's not popular to do it in a community with a bunch of badasses. Right?
Yeah, and you know, and that's what, you know, and for me, this is where GBR this really hits hard, because you know, I have come out of service, right, and then come back in. So I got out of the Marine Corps, and you know, me being pretty young, you know, I had these thoughts, you know, well, when you get out, maybe they have like this formation or there's ceremony for you, like, oh, thanks for your great service. It's like some dude in, you know, our administration shop, he gave me my DD 214, bye. And, you know, and that's it, right? And so for me, you know, that experience, that was pretty hard, because, you know, I loved the Marine Corps, you know, once a Marine, always a Marine. I'm very, very proud of the Marine Corps and what I did, my time there. And then to leave that. So on my deployments to the Marines, I trained the Iraqi police. So it's actually funny, but very similar to what we do, you know, in special forces. It was myself, and on my first deployment, it was myself and 3 other Marines who were dropped in the middle of the city in Iraqi police station. And we had 90 police officers that we were responsible for living with, training, patrolling, working with, everything. Right. So through my time in the Marine Corps, I had the experience of a very tight knit team, a very small team. And when I got out and left that, it's, you know, I had that like, well, shit, what do I do now?
Yeah.
You know, I thought I had things lined up. You know, I went to school, I was working, and I was doing good things. I was successful, but dude, I couldn't turn on the news. I couldn't watch TV because I just had this super heavy sense of guilt for, you know, my buddies still downrange, still getting after it. You know, I felt no matter what I did during the day, I wasn't achieving anything. And with GBR, you know, Nick, man, like he had the foresight to recognize this. Like we have to start providing something else for our guys to pursue and to go after outside of the team room, outside of work, because like you cannot, like I'm a Green Beret. That's my job. That's my profession. That's not who I am. Mm-hmm. When I am done in the military, I have to have something else. I still have to have self-identity and something else to keep me going every day. And with a lot of these things, again, personal experience, like when I have dark times, like most of the time, it's because I have no direction. I have no path to follow. So you kind of feel, it starts out in this like stagnant place, what am I doing? I'm not being successful. We're used to operating and working at such a high level, like you said, guys that, make it into this community, they have put years of blood, sweat, and tears to get this. And we are professional level soldiers, yes. Right? So you take that away, and for somebody who's used to working at such a high level with, so many talented folks, that's gone. First, it starts out with feeling stagnant and complacent, and then that goes down into depression.
Yeah.
So now you hit depression, and then compounded with, post-traumatic stress or TBI, these other issues, and it's just a snowball effect, right? And so Nick being able to see this and being able to put this group together to give guys the opportunity and the means while they're still in, like, hey man, you're into photography? Cool. I'm going to get you photography lessons, get you licensed, start doing that. You want to race dirt bikes and razors? Cool. Here's your free dirt bike. Now I'm going to get you into the Mint 400, the biggest off-road race in the country, and we're going to go do that together. Or, hey, I've got this crazy guy who likes to run ultra marathons. Sure, man, go do this. And we actually had an awesome meeting yesterday. So there's about 10 of us, and it is, I'm the ultra marathon guy. I'm trying to climb Everest. We have other dudes that are doing jujitsu, photography, skydiving, dirt bike racing, archery shooting. It is wide open. If you're passionate about something, let's get you there, dude, and get your mind out of the team room, off of deployments, and start, chasing your dream.
Dude, what a service. Because you're right, man. We have this shared purpose while you're in, and I'm not going to say we, because I wasn't a Green Beret, but anybody that's part of something, and when I don't want to say spits you out, but when you're done with it and you've had so much invested in it and it's gone, and now you're just sitting there kind of feeling like an island without the camaraderie, without the brotherhood or sisterhood that you had. There's a lot of lost people out there. So, and I liked that you said that, hey, well, that's what I do for a job. That's not who I am. For a lot of people, they might not realize that, right? I mean, because it takes so much to get into these positions. And I can see you even struggling with it, because when we talked on the phone a couple of days ago, you were kind of down on yourself because you had COVID and couldn't run. You're like, so I've been sitting around for 2 weeks feeling like I'm not doing anything. Well, you had fucking COVID. Like, it's like, yeah. You were kind of sick. So I could see how that would kind of creep into your brain fairly quick. Whether that's just a byproduct of feeling that pressure from your dad, pressure you put on yourself, pressures from those communities. But it sounds to me like you better have a purpose. Otherwise, if all of these things are gone, then people can certainly go down a dark path.
Yeah. And, I guess this could kind of tie into, like I mentioned, making that mental shift with how I started feeling more depressed because of my own issues. And then finally just kind of flip that switch and like, no, turn it into a positive, turn it into something else that I can use that's going to be a benefit from me. So, you brought up COVID. Yeah. I just had a race this past Saturday, a 50-mile race. And 10 days before that, got pretty sick. Yep, tested positive with COVID. But in my mind, I was completely committed. I had to do this race, and this will go back to another life lesson I got from my dad. If you say you're going to do something, you do it, right? And for me, I had to turn it into a positive as just another self-check, as a test. Like, hey, yep, I've been training and preparing for this thing. I've told people I was going to do it. I'm representing an organization, but I got COVID. So yeah, sure. I probably could have took that and like, nope, not going to do the race. I'm not 100%. I'm sick. I'm actually still sick. I still have this crap in my lungs. It sucks, but whatever. But I was just like, no, like I'm going to use this personally as a mental toughness check, as another obstacle. Like, can I do it? Like, yeah, I'm not 100%, but can I still get out and execute this race? Like, I have to try. Yeah. I told people I was going to do it. I committed to myself that I was going to do it. So I have to at least go try. And, I went out, ran the race, whatever, got it done. But, that's life, man. Like we have all these plans and aspirations and see all these good things, but life's going to kick you in the nuts. It doesn't care. Like it could be COVID, it could be job, finance, it could be anything. Do you have the dedication and the perseverance to still go after what you set forth to do? Like that's the test. And I feel like, when I was younger, those kicking the nuts, like they would scare me or they would push me back and like, oh fuck, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe this is the wrong decision because there's risk here. But as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate those. It's like, okay, this is where I'm tested. Do I really have the mettle and the fortitude that, I think I have when I committed to doing this? And then you push through that, you grind through that. And that's where like true strength and confidence and, all of these things come into play. And that's how you learn yourself. Is, you learn more about yourself through adversity than success.
Yeah. Friction equals growth, right? Like if you stick with it, it equals growth. And I've seen it a lot, specifically within the ultra running community, because it brings a sense of honesty that you don't get from a lot of different things, right? You go into a lot. Imagine, I've never run a full ultra, but I imagine you go into some really dark places and then you come out of them and you kind of go these ups and downs and you have to go through those things, but always keeping this thing, kind of like this North Star that you're always going towards, right? Having that goal that you want to end up reaching, even if and accepting the fact that it's going to suck along the way. And I think that's what a lot of people, to include myself, that it's that anticipation of it sucking is what scares a lot of people. I think it's the same anticipation of even peeling back some of those layers of dealing with trauma stuff. Like most people want to push that stuff back because they inherently know, like, I don't want to relive that. That was bad enough the first go around. I certainly don't want to be talking about it anymore. What are this trip to Everest, and this is happening, when is this scheduled for?
April 7th. April 7th, I'll land in Kathmandu, and then the total expedition length is right at 8 weeks.
What does your training process look like? I mean, inherently, I imagine just a lot of the stuff you're doing with the Army is going to be helping out in some form, probably not at that level, but what's your training process like leading up to that? And then how are you getting, or how's Green Beret getting this message of one, what you're doing and what you're trying to bring awareness to out to the world?
So training, my typical training day starts out, like I said, with 2 to 3 hours of, lower intensity zone 2, cardio. So I said that's running, that's hiking, ski touring. And then, for sure, I'm fortunate enough that my job has me in the mountains, and it has me moving and being very active all day long. And then in the evening, I'll do a body weight gym circuit, followed by another hour of low intensity cardio with a hypoxic altitude training machine.
Yeah, I saw that mask.
So yeah. So like right now I have that set up to where I'm doing low intensity cardio at roughly 16,000 feet. And then I'm sleeping at around 14,000 feet through the night.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of like a general, overview for my training. And then that's another reason why, I run ultras anyway on my own. But that's another part of the reason why I had this race this past weekend. And then my last race is actually March 26th. That's another 50 miler. So kind of intermediate races in between, just to, keep me honest with my training and preparation, get, big 8-9 hour day of running in, good elevation gain. I think this next race has just over 7,000 feet of elevation gain in the 50 miles. So just kind of using every different aspect of my life that I can to, incorporate into training, I guess. And then with Green Beret Racing, they definitely have, Green Beret Racing on Instagram, Facebook. You can also go to their website, greenberetracing.org. They're pushing stuff out. And then once I leave and I'm on expedition, we're definitely going to continue with updates and posts, pictures, videos. And then I'm even going to take my Garmin InReach. It's a satellite communications device, and so anytime I go in the mountains here, I'll send that link out to coworkers or to my wife, so you can do live tracking, or in the worst case event, if I have to hit, an emergency response, people have my location, communication, and whatnot. But I'm actually going to take that with me throughout the expedition, and we're going to have it set up so people can view live tracking. So you can see me doing my acclimatization climbs up and down from base camp, camps 1, camp 2, et cetera. And then as well as my summit push.
What's the Army's, obviously you got to tell them, hey, I'm going overseas, I'm doing this. What was that response been like?
Good, supportive, the biggest thing, priority one, definitely my job. Sure. Still in the Army. So the first thing that comes up is manning, right? We still have courses to run, and, at our schoolhouse of instructor staff, we have 8 instructors. So we're not a big schoolhouse by any means. So I definitely had to be, accepting to that. And it was about 3 weeks ago, there was actually some questions on whether or not I would be able to go, because it does fall right in line with one of our courses. And, like I said, priority one, we have to execute. We are the only component, that provides this training to the force. So we have to execute our courses, but we were able to kind of look at manning, look at schedules, and make it work. And they're absolutely supportive. So, I couldn't be thankful enough that they're, being an active duty guy, that I'm actually getting granted 2 months of leave to go attempt Everest. It's kind of unheard of,
Yeah, it's huge. And I'm wondering how much of that is because of the community that you're already part of, right? Like what you're doing as an instructor. I mean, I think that you mentioned about street cred, right? You like one of our instructors, this is what they did. This is the reason they did it. I can only see that being a positive all around. Jason, is there a way that other people can support you? Because I think people are going to hear this. And I mean, they want to support people doing great things like this. Is there a way that they can help, whether by financially, whether it come from gear or any of that? Is there a way that they can help you along this way?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, greenberetracing.org, my expedition profile is on there. We also have a Mighty Cause page that's set up. I have the link on my bio, my Instagram account at JCMJ. But yeah, the biggest thing that we do need right now is financial support, right? Like these expeditions, they are not inexpensive. Most of them run anywhere from 80 to 120 grand. I'm fortunate with the company because I am going with a guide company. My total expedition cost is 38 grand.
Wow.
Right. And so right now through that Mighty Cause page, we have a goal of $25,000 to ensure to get me into country, get me on an expedition, and so we can make this thing happen.
All right, I'm going to try and put you in touch with some people. We'll talk offline, but yeah, people are going to hear this, and I think I don't think it's going to be a problem. Raising that 25,000. Getting back to, I think it's just the motivation. Like you said, it starts with you, and you mentioned it more than once. You mentioned it when you went into selection for Green Berets. You go in for its personal reason. At some point, you realize you're talking to your people around you. It becomes bigger than you. You decide you want to climb Everest because it's a lifelong dream. You realize, hey, man, I can put something behind this. I can fuel this with a motivation that's bigger than me. And I think, man, I think there's a power in that people understand, they recognize, and they understand that it's really needed within these communities. What has been the feedback you've gotten from other people in the military that kind of hear what you're doing? Because, I was under the impression that Nick Lavery had known you as a friend, but I come to find out that that's not even the case. Like, you guys hadn't actually met before. So people are clearly supporting this that you haven't even had these kind of interactions with.
Yeah, no, I mean, the feedback I've gotten so far, as you would assume, has definitely been positive and supportive. I think they hear anybody that's going to try to climb Everest, they're going to be supportive and positive. But what I really hope that people take from this and can really understand the big picture is, with GBR, the way that we're doing this as a means to support this much bigger objective. And one thing that's really important to understand, and I want to make sure I hit, right? Like, if we start talking about post-traumatic stress and people being depressed and going down into these dark places, you immediately think of, say a guy with a pistol and a bottle of whiskey, right? Well, that's at the very, very end. Like, that is so far beyond where it should get to. Like, naturally, and we see it in the military, right? We see it, in daily life, knee-jerk, immediate responses, right? Like, oh, he has PTSD. He's drinking whiskey and has his pistol. What we're trying to do, we're trying to get 12 months ahead of that. We're trying to affect guys where they're still on the teams, they're still in a positive mindset, they're still doing things, but we give them this other avenue, this other thing that they can pursue well before they ever get to this feeling of being lost or not having anyone else, not having a support mechanism that leads to these thoughts of suicide. And, again, I can't give Nick enough credit because no one else is doing this. Everyone else is trying to support, oh, hey, man, I have PTSD. I'm thinking about killing myself. Go talk to somebody. No, we have to start before that. And so that's where, when we talk about like the donations and the funds, right now we're focused on my expedition and getting me there. But the end goal is to get awareness and get donations and support on that expedition so we can offer these opportunities for so many of our other mates that want to go out and do things, because all of these things, they take money and they need to have support behind them so we can execute.
Dude, it's such an important point. And that goes along with anything around mental health, addiction. It's catching people as they start to fall, right? It's obviously there needs to be mechanisms and places and support for people that have gotten that far kind of down that down that hole. But you can have a really profound effect on other people that are just starting those first steps, or maybe they're halfway there. And it's recognizing. Two, it's having these honest conversations, right? You see somebody, maybe they're not acting right. Maybe you see them partaking in some activities that are signs that they're trying to feel good short term. One of my other guests, Dan Ellis, that came on, and I think it was something I even said to you, but when we were on the phone, He has this saying that honest conflict beats dishonest harmony. So, saying something to somebody else, and even if it's planting that seed, you might not even get the reaction you're hoping for, but it might start that conversation within themselves. Like, hey man, I'm worried about you, and I love you, and that's the only reason I'm talking about this stuff in the first place. Again, not comfortable. They don't teach that in like basic training or Green Beret school or any of that kind of stuff. But I think things are changing within the military community, where we're part of looking out for each other has to be this. It has to be, because what Green Beret Racing and other organizations are doing, man. It is a service that we need more of. It needs to be supported. It's an investment in our veteran community that pays off. It pays dividends from here on out. Because, like you said, you're not going to be in the Army forever. Nobody's going to be in the military forever. So you better have something else going on. A sense of identity, a sense of meaning, because bad things come along the way if you don't. So, I know you're not big on social media. I'm going to be pointing some people your direction. Not to say I got a huge following, because I kind of suck at it too. If there's any way we can help support you guys, man, I would love it. I'm going to try and put you in touch with some people, some other people within your area that are doing some similar things. Is there anything else you want to cover on here, Jason?
No, man. I think we hit a lot of the key points. Thank you again for having me on. It's a great opportunity. Like I mentioned on the phone, I'm the dude that listens to podcasts. Never really thought I would be on one as a guest. But yeah, thank you for your support and getting this out there and really helping us push, GBR and what we're trying to do.
Jason, you don't suck at podcasts. You're good, man. You don't suck at them. Matter of fact, I'm going to be passing your name on to some other people. I'd love to help share your story and what you guys at Green Beret Racing are doing. So I appreciate you, man. Have an awesome day. Good luck with everything. Hey, and we're going to keep, I want to keep in touch with you, because I want to see how this thing progresses and see how we can help support you.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, JT.
All right, man. All right. That's a wrap. Thanks again to Jason Howell for coming on. These things aren't easy for a lot of people to talk about. We talk about being tough. We talk about being somebody that's in special forces. So now you can tell me, talk about their feelings. Yeah, well, that shit's not easy. So thank you, Jason, for coming on, man. We support you. Please, anyone hearing this, listening to this, help support him as well. And I will catch you all next week.